Good evening, everybody. There's always first time for everything, and today's my first time on double duty. I saw you hopefully at 9 a.m. this morning for the AM actual news, and now this is our PM version, which this morning, and if you haven't watched it, I strongly recommend you to tune in. This was around 40 minutes long, and I caught you up on the President Biden's travel to the Latin America, his first leg of the tour in Lima, Peru, where he met with Chinese President Xi, what they discussed. We also talked about his trip to Brazil and the G20 meeting, what went out there. And I will continue on that tomorrow morning as well, because today he met with the president of Brazil, Lula, and certainly Brazil is the B in BRICS. So a lot of things were discussed. And so tomorrow morning, we will be catching up on everything that I mentioned in tonight's newsletter. And if you're not getting your newsletter, sign up honest.substack.com. It's the actual newsletter. Also, we talked about the COP29, so the UN climate conference, which was in Azerbaijan, in Baku, and the representatives, both Republican and Democrats, were there. What was discussed there, and we talked about other news. So if you haven't watched the AM version, I recommend you to do that, because today will be right now will be something very different. So right now we're gonna focus. Yes, we're gonna focus on the incoming administration and the new members that are about to join the circus, and we're gonna see who they are and what they're gonna do. Also, what is happening in Congress, what's happening at the White House, and whatnot. Okay, and then of course we dive into Ukraine, because a lot of things have been announced over the weekend. A lot of things have been also done by Russia. Think about those cables, right? Who did what? So we're going to review that. Also, Putin has updated today their nuclear doctrine. What happened? Does it matter? Does it not? Is it bluffing? Is it not? So we're going to dive into that, and then talk also about the Middle East and some developments there. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. We have a lot of clips to look at. We have a lot of tweets to look at and all that type of stuff. Okay, so thank you so much for being here. Hey, David. Hello. Good evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, so first thing I wanted to share is that well, the news that I personally don't support, but hey, DA agreed to postpone Trump's hush money sentencing. The Manhattan District Attorney Office, his attorney office, announced Tuesday it would agree to delay Donald Trump's sentencing in the hush money case to allow time for prosecutors to address his anticipated motion to dismiss. Trump sent a big press release claiming that's a huge victory and that will be deleted very soon and it will be gone and all that kind of stuff. Now, the felonies will not be gone. That's already in standing. Now, if they want to dismiss it, they're filing certainly for it, and this will be reviewed first. Now, the DA also acknowledged that Trump likely won't be won't be sentenced until after his presidential term ends. Yeah, but asserted that his felony conviction should remain. This marks a significant and unprecedented shift in Trump's political and legal trajectory. Now, trajectory. Uh, yeah, it is unprecedented. A lot of things that concern Trump are, out of this world. Certainly, when we look at the nominees, when we look at just the approach and how they talk, right? For instance, J.D. Vance, we haven't heard from him. We haven't really seen him since the election. And I honestly don't even remember seeing him on the election night when Trump delivered that victory speech. I don't know if you recall seeing him. I don't recall seeing him. So last time in my memory, it's somewhere in Pennsylvania when he was maybe trying to buy donuts and deliver a speech. So today he started tweeting. I have the tweets and really, like calling people names and all that kind of stuff. How Trump speaks, how the press releases are written. So certainly we will be craving so much for just decency. Forget politics. Decency when it comes to media, when it comes to content, beginning January 20th at 12:01 p.m. Eastern. So I'm working on it, and I'm working on interviews with people whom you appreciate and like. So because we will need to, not just focus on the news, that will be all this, but also have decency. But here's an observation. During this election, only 2 states voted unanimously for either Republican or Democrat. I don't know if you know those states, but here's a graphic. This is pretty interesting, though. So Oklahoma, no disrespect, voted completely Republican, as you see. It is 44th in education, 49th in healthcare, 44th in quality of life, 50th in test scores, and top 10 worst poverty. Now, Massachusetts, that voted blue, is first in education, second in healthcare, first in quality of life, first in test scores, and top 10 least poverty. And I think, if you look at this graphic, that is, if anything, what each party, and I'm more concerned about Democratic Party, should focus on, because this is what we're dealing with. This is the reality, right? If a state is 50th in test scores, that is voting Republican, and a state that is first in test scores is voting completely blue. Now, this is the range we're talking about. And winning means taking part of electorate from your opponent. So how are you going to do that, right? Maybe you need to simplify. Maybe you need to do whatever. Certainly, Department of Education is going to get an interesting leader, or at least that leader has been nominated. And we're going to talk about it soon. So it's very interesting, though. Now, well, before today, I think it was somewhere during the weekend, Trump has nominated the new FCC czar, right, or chairman or chief. He has been, this czar in chief, has been a supporter of Elon Musk. This is the person that got Elon Musk, and specifically his Starlink, those federal contracts that Starlink completely relies on. Who I'm talking about is certainly Brendan Carr. He still is the top Republican at the FCC. So he's not a new person to FCC, but he would be in the new role, right, if confirmed. So he's Trump's pick to lead that agency. Now, he has been supporter of Musk's efforts to win subsidies for broadband internet service and criticized NBC for letting Vice President Harris to appear at the Saturday Night Live. More so, he even says that they should be losing their license for it. So I have a video. Let's take a look. Do I have it? Yes. Here we go. This is Carr talking about NBC.
And what should be the ramification here? Yeah, we need to keep every single remedy on the table. I mean, one of the remedies the FCC has ultimately would be license revocation if we find that it's egregious, and we'll see what they have to say about this. But it needs to deter this type of conduct, because when you're 50 hours before the opening of Election Day, the whole purpose of this rule is to give people a fair shot.
Certainly, he's top Republican at FCC. You guys won. So even if that was so drastic, did that help Kamala Harris? Or, why didn't Trump go to 60 Minutes, right? Because same people want to claim that CBS should lose their license, their broadcast license, because they allegedly put together different answers to different questions, referring to that 60 Minutes interview of Kamala Harris on 60 Minutes. But Trump declined to even appear. So it seems to me and many others that any reason is a good reason to file to take the licenses away from broadcasting companies, which leads us to something that, either will push channels and TV hosts to bend over and sort of, concede and try to portray Trump as the king, a tsar or emperor he wants to be, which certainly, we have seen yesterday on Morning Joe when they said we went to Mar-a-Lago, we kissed the ring, but we didn't even get an interview. And then they faced so much backlash. Now, we need we haven't had this stuff in forever, so we're back, and I'm back, and I don't see anything turning anymore, so that's good. In the morning we didn't have that. Hey Jay says, oh yeah, well, we're back for now. If anything, I'll be back anyway. Hey Jay, hey David, I said hi already. Interrupt freeze, yeah, exactly. Hey Bonnie made it. Yes guys, yeah, we're live. Morning, it doesn't happen. No, it happens anyway. So my point was, I do hope that reporters who don't want to end up like the Good Morning Joe fellas, right? Mika and Joe. Joe had affiliation with Trump. We see the pictures, we see his coverage from 2016 on. So that aside, but those who don't want to lose their reputation, because you built your reputation as you know it for decades, and then you do one thing and that diminishes your reputation, it's out of the window. So if reporters don't want to do that, also, to be realistic, think about it. What is mainstream media these days? And if you do a bit of research, which is just basic Googling, you will realize that actually online media is the mainstream media, and the broadcasting serves a very tiny demographic that is predominantly Republican. Those who sit there and watch television and rely on, the television or Fox News. Hey Lisa, hey, YouTube also audio is glitching. Yeah, YouTube has been on and off all day. So anyway, I'm here. I'm not glitching. Okay, so we saw the newly appointed or announced, whatever, at least selected leader to be, if appointed, talk about NBC losing the license. Now, CNN also has talked about, in general, What can broadcasting companies face? Take a look.
Donald Trump has threatened the licenses of basically all the major television networks in the United States. Will he push his FCC chairman to follow through on those threats? Time will tell. I know Brendan Carr personally. I saw him earlier this year. He is an affable Republican who has been on the commission for years. He has been trying to show his loyalty to Trump recently. For example, the other day, he wrote a letter to the heads of all the big technology companies asking about his concerns about social media censorship.
And if you think about it, censorship and whatever they fight against, it's only pro-Republican and really pro-MAGA message. It would not apply to me, right? Not to censor me, to talk the truth, whatever. It applies to the other side, because even when they're winning, they're still victims. And this is a fact. This is not even my opinion, because I can give you all the receipts for this. So who will benefit from it? Musk. You know why? Here's why. Just 1 hour after thanking the president for the appointment, well, the president-elect, the former president, Carr wrote on X, quote, "We must dismantle the censorship cartel and restore free speech rights for everyday Americans." And everyday Americans are the MAGA Americans, naturally. Carr and Trump's powerful ally Elon Musk immediately replied with one word of affirmation: based. He took aim at technology companies, I'm referring to Carr, for censorship, promised to hold broadcast TV and radio stations accountable, and pledged to end the FCC's promotion of diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. Now, he also has a close relationship with Musk. Some of it has been visible in their interaction on Thank you. It's a trip. I'm back. Anyway, are we already regulated? Are we being censored? What's the point here? I don't know. Sorry, guys. I'm here. Jay says not to be conspiracy type, but oh my. Yeah, are you referring to my glitching or what I'm saying? Yeah, what I'm saying. And it's not conspiracy thing. It's just literally you see what the person says, and then the person gets a promotion in the job, and then you see the acknowledgement from Musk, and then you see the promises done by Trump, and then the person agrees. And so it's sort of like this, not really a conspiracy, but really sort of a threat of actions that gives you a preview of the next action, So Trump today was at the SpaceX launch. There are videos. He was standing next to Elon Musk and not speaking, and Musk was like telling him about the booster. And so they were testing this super rocket, and the rocket later fell in the ocean and exploded. They said it was planned to be that. They aborted the catching phase where it catches the base catches the rocket back. So I mean, in the process, they aborted it because they didn't see satisfactory numbers, and so it landed in the ocean and exploded. Now, Trump also posted this on Twitter, and I was thinking, oh my God, really was trying hard not to make a joke out of it. He says, "I'm heading to the great state of Texas to watch the launch of the largest object ever to be elevated, not only to space, but simply by lifting off the ground. Good luck." and the great patriots involved in this incredible project. Now, may I remind the New Yorker, Donald Trump, we had the Madison Square Garden moved from one avenue to another avenue. Do you think the Madison Square Garden building is maybe as heavy or in those kind of numbers? Anyway, the biggest object elevated in air. It's a very interesting way to describe a rocket, but anyway, here we are. But Musk was also tweeting some new rules for Twitter. Call it censorship, call it nonsense, I don't know. But he's saying that accounts posting pictures of various food items, including their own meals, will be marked for engagement farming and automatically suspended. So I don't post my salads, but if I were to post my salad, could I post my salad? How is that engagement farming? Engagement farming, what I think, and this is mainly Twitter, is when somebody posts a picture and says, what do you think about it? Or how does it make you feel? Do you notice something? And then everybody starts, competing with each other, with what they notice. More junk waste in the ocean. Yes, David, exactly. And I was thinking, what does it do to actually, the entire world that is in the ocean? Like, what is it going to do to fish or anything? It's incredible. And that's why they have violated around 90 rules, and they had to satisfy every single point to even attempt launching those rockets again. So for that reason, they had, I think, like a half a year break, because also there's so many videos on YouTube, if you search for it, where they launched the rocket for the first time, the super rocket in Texas. And the videos of folks' houses, right? If you have like any type of bell or whatever, right, with the video option, it recorded how the explosion, because when the rocket lifts off, it's literally an explosion, how the it shattered windows and the car windows and like everything got damaged, and it's like really looks like a war zone, and people filed law cases. And so for that reason, FEC had to put stop on it. But now that's a different story. You deleted the app, can't even post dinner. What the hell? Cats on next. Exactly, right? They go to Bonnie, I think you called it. Cats will be next to be banned of Twitter shitter. Anyway, but this is Governor Newsom, who talked about Musk. And this is very interesting. Why am I sharing it? Not to talk about Musk more than we already need to, but he really noticed the difference. And I think maybe you noticed that difference too. I used to not admire him, but I used to respect him in terms of rockets. And I'm like, a nerd in terms of space and all that kind of stuff. But now I'm just seeing through it. Maybe we got wiser, or maybe he dropped, layers. I don't know. But let's listen to Governor Newsom on Musk.
Look, I've known Elon for over 25 years, one of America's great entrepreneurs and innovators. But this is not the person I knew even 2 years ago. And with respect to Elon, I just don't have the confidence that there's other things that he's not up to behind the scenes, not just, again, what he's expressing quite publicly. And I'm very concerned about a country where people like Elon Musk, others that are sucking up to Donald Trump, that will undoubtedly be carved out of regulations, undoubtedly get massive, even larger federal contracts. I mean, it is an American oligarchy that can be formed here. It's, again, very, very serious. I hope people are paying attention. Seeing this from Elon Musk breaks my heart a little bit, again, as someone that really admires his entrepreneurial and innovative tendencies. And of course, we're all beneficiaries from that as it relates to vehicles and issues related to the work he's done in space. But I'm increasingly concerned about those kinds of relationships, not just him, many others that are supporting his campaign.
Well, I have a problem saying we're benefiting from those creations. Maybe, yeah, but Tesla was not created by Musk. It was acquired by Musk, and then he literally pushed out the founders of Tesla. Same as what happened now with Netflix, for instance. Netflix is not owned by the guys who actually founded Netflix and sent us DVDs, right? That was a big turmoil there where Netflix never wanted to have advertising, and now they chose the advertising advertising structure, and going into live television, into sports, into boxing, and the initial owners, the founders, they wanted to be very family oriented. So but anyway, companies get acquired. Same with Peloton. If you have ever tried it, it was one company, then they literally pushed out the founder, and now it's very different. So it does happen. But did he what is really created there, and what's really blamed to be or claimed to be created? Certainly huge respect when it comes to SpaceX, and that's what US is using in terms of capsules, and what's flying literally our astronauts and Russian and Japanese astronauts and others to space. Now the question is, why the hell? And I spoke to one of the senior administration officials at NASA in an interview, public interview, where he said, what we blame ourselves on is that we relied on Musk for such a long time. They didn't open the commercial space, or they didn't even open the tender for commercial companies, or those companies that willing to put money into research to compete for such contracts that Musk now got automatically. That is what refers us to that picture, the infamous picture of Trump's tweet, right? He tweeted a picture of Musk standing next to him. He's sitting at the Resolute desk at the Oval Office, and Trump said, he was begging me for money for investment, for his Starlink that doesn't work, for his rockets that crash, and all that kind of stuff. And if I would have told him to knee in front of me and kiss my shoe, he would have done it. That is where Musk got the billions of dollars allocated to SpaceX. And this was created through the Space Force. And so this sort of satisfied Trump's ego, and then certainly satisfied Elon's plans, right? And so now what I'm hearing from Pentagon officially, everybody speaks very openly about it, that Trump is not just promising, he is agreeing to create now Space Force National Guard. Now, because it's a new entity, it's Space Force and then Space Force National Guard thing, that is where you have to literally write law for it, because it never existed. And what they're writing into it, again, what I'm hearing from officials that are dealing with that into it, they're giving Trump the authority to direct this National Guard Space Force. Again, if you think about the mass deportations and all that kind of stuff, his rights are maybe limited, right? But here it's something very new. So just to keep an eye on. Now, I told you that J.D. Vance reappeared again in another weird way. He tweeted, well, what happened was, let's look at this first. So the Congress voted today. They confirmed the nomination of the kid of Florida, so the Embry kid, to be U.S. Circuit Judge for the 11th Circuit, right? And so Democrats won. See, the yes is 49, the nay is 45, and not voting were 6. And so then they blamed Vance for not showing up to vote. And then he tweeted, he says, Grace Chung is a mouth-breathing imbecile. I mean, that's our vice president. Just compare it to Vice President Harris. Anyway, he says that if I had shown up to the vote in question, the nominee would have succeeded 49-46 rather than 49-45, if blah, 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 blah. When this 11th Circuit vote happened, I was meeting with Trump to interview multiple positions for our government, including for FBI director. Okay, well, very nice language, compare it with VP Harris. By the way, VP Harris arrived today in Hawaii for, a quick vacation with her husband. And there's some very private and sweet pictures by paparazzi. So I'm not going to really focus on that and give them privacy. Now, talking about Musk, right? If we think about that DOGE department, I'm not going to promote the coin and say the name, but that department, whatever they're creating outside the government thing, his left hand, I think, in this case, is Ramaswamy. And he spoke on a podcast, And then he spoke on television. And I know we discussed it on Twitter, but let's sum it up together here. So first, he was talking on Fox News, and he says that the question was, are you expecting to close down entire agencies? And so here's his answer.
Consensus to make the kind of deep cuts that haven't been made for most of our history.
Are you expecting to close down entire agencies, like President Trump has talked about the Department of Education, for example? Are you going to be closing down departments?
We expect mass reductions. We expect certain agencies to be deleted outright. We expect mass reductions in force in areas of the federal government that are bloated. We expect massive cuts among federal contractors and others who are overbilling the federal government. So, yes, we expect all of the above. And I think people will be surprised by, how quickly we're able to move with some of those changes, given the legal backdrop the Supreme Court has given us.
You've got what has been...
Given the legal backdrop Supreme Court has given us, who is you? What did Supreme Court give you? You don't have a governmental position. You have something where you are, writing letters for Musk or whatever, tweets. I don't know. What are you doing for him? An outside the government type of agency. You don't have any weight. You don't have anything. Right? And Jack, absolutely right. It's president-elect. I'm already Fox News, whatever. I'm over it. But and Bonnie says, I agree. Rose, hey Rosie, you made it. Yay, Rosie's here. Rosie says, I agree, Bonnie, but I think he's also a narcissist. Yes. Greatest corruption. Yeah. That's my point, Jay, in terms of Musk and his businesses. Yeah, absolutely. Bonnie says, don't forget Musk has a mental disability that inhibits his feeling any emotion. Asperger's sufferers can only mimic emotion, but they can't actually feel it. Exactly, which helps with this, unfortunately. Certainly, then he revealed how they will do it, right? So they will go by Social Security numbers. If it's even, if it's ends on the even, or, whatever number. So then they get 50% like that. And then they do, if it starts on the even, then you stay. If not, you leave. And that's how you end up just retaining 25% of federal employees, which is like a complete creep show. And I saw your comments where, certain states start on the even number, certain don't. I'm not sure if they're going that far into thinking about it, but this just alone, the thinking of, deleting the governments or deleting the entities, closing up departments, not even considering what Department of Education does. What does it do for kids? Closing this down, what type of unemployment are you going to end up with? Also, the mass migration, mass deportation, what are you going to end up with in terms of pricing? And so those who voted for Trump are slowly but surely waking up. Take a look. Wrong. And the mainstream media suddenly starts hearing it. So take a look at those sudden headlines, from CNN, Newsweek, Bloomberg, New York Times, PBS. Why Trump's mass deportation could raise grocery prices. Donald Trump's migrant plan will drive up grocery prices. Trump's immigration plans could bring an economic toll. You couldn't say that earlier. You couldn't say that before people voted, because people voted for the egg prices. They sold out democracy for the price of an egg to go down, 10 to 20 cents. That was, the price of our democracy, because certainly America is not going to be what we know it as now, and it will take decades to rebuild. And it's just a fact, we're in it. It's like you're in, let's say, Disneyland, and you're getting on some roller coaster that, it was kind of cool, but okay. So you sit down and there's no way to leave. It starts already climbing up and you're like, oh, it's going to be shitty. I know it's going to be shit. But anyway, we're going to survive. We're going to come out, our knees will be weak. Maybe we're going to be vomiting all around, but we're going to survive. And that's exactly how I feel, for instance, getting into this. We know it's going to be shitty. The problem is those who voted for Trump and will be facing this deportation and loss of jobs and loss of lifestyle and rights. This is like the chickens voting for KFC. that is something where, are we going to have enough compassion and empathy, or are we going to be watching it with a thought of karma? That's again up to us, and no judgment. Now, Flynn, remember Flynn? He wants to work with Tulsi Gabbard. Take a look. And then he shares some obnoxious ideas. Take a look.
And you're going to get it straight. Would you be open to be her deputy or some sort of special assistant, at least for the first year, to make sure that she goes through the wilderness of mirrors?
Yeah, because part of, so the answer is yes, but the part of this too, and this is what I told Vivek, okay, just briefly, that these people in government, they know how to hide, right? And I call them wall walkers because they keep their eyes against the wall because they don't want anybody to actually engage them. So, those are all walking all over the Pentagon, but other buildings in the government. So these people know how to hide, and they know how to come in and give you presentation after presentation. One of the things that they're going to do, and I want everybody to listen closely, for those that have been chosen for these really critical jobs, Tulsi's among them, Pete Hegseth is another, somebody, whoever goes into the DOJ, the FBI, what they will do is they'll immediately come to you and they're going to put security all around you, and they're going to say, and they're going to set up a wall.
So pretty much, when you are selected, fire everybody and hire your, your friends. And unplanned, but let me share it. Do you know who was the president of Ukraine by the name Yanukovych? And so this was a complete Russian asset. He was installed, it was a fake election, and it was fabricated, and he won. Think about Venezuela, something like that. And he is a convicted felon. He was in prison for rape. And so while in prison, he got buddies out of, in prison. He got familiar with some friends. And so this Russian asset was installed to lead Ukraine. And he got all his prisoners, all his buddies. He installed them not just at the federal government, but also in different oblasts, that's like states here. And so they were controlling all different states and parts of Ukraine. And the DOJ, right, the equivalent in Ukraine, and the president, the president worked for Putin, and the entire government was ex-cons working for that president. And that's what led to this Maidan, right? When the Ukrainians came in with Orange Revolution, right? And they stayed there and ultimately pushed him down. And then Poroshenko came in. Anyway, not Poroshenko. Anyway, they pushed Yanukovych out. This is the time when I was at the UN. So this is the pro-Russian situation there. And so for that reason, when you speak to Ukrainians, or I speak to my family members, and they're like, we know what's happening now. We know exactly what's happening now. And we know what's going to happen next. Like the TV media and the press being shut down or converted to state press. That's the first thing that goes down. And so like everybody has to be hungry. There should be thousands of people fighting for one job. So they're always hungry and motivated, never complaining. People are standing in long lines and all that kind of stuff, while the leader installs his buddies with bad path, And so for that reason, like, oh my God, we're here. We already lived it through. America never lived it through. That's why people have, some delusion in terms of like what's going to happen, or why is this cabinet looking like it? But, the loyalty, so to speak, is preference. Now, I was at I'm officially always covering all the CFR events. That's the Council for Foreign Affairs. And they're in New York on Park Avenue, and also in Washington, D.C. And so today they hosted a conversation between the former governor, Chris Christie, and David Marchik. David Marchik is the dean of American University's Kogod School of Business, but he was a senior official in the Biden administration when they dealt with transition. So he dealt with over 100 federal agencies, and so he was overseeing the transition for Biden administration, or Biden-Harris administration. And Governor Chris Christie certainly in 2016 worked with Trump. And so they both got to, were gotten together and interviewed by PBS journalists. And so the question was, what is this transition from Biden to Trump? How does it look like? Here's a picture. This was a private Zoom call. It wasn't public. It wasn't, anything that was shared over social media or anything. So here you see them. You see David on the left, Judy Woodruff, that's the PBS reporter, and on the right you see Chris Christie. And so this was exactly 1 hour of conversation. So here's some quotes. Former Governor Chris Christie said, as to Donald Trump's cabinet and transition period, quote, "That's Donald Trump casting a television show. That's what he did in 2016, and that's what he's doing now. It's a different show, but he's casting it." He also shared that in 2016, they were writing out everything as they were supposed to, how the first day will look like, how the second day will look like, the first week, the first month, the first 90 days, the first 100 days. So they were doing everything by the book, so to speak, or at least trying. And so Trump got very frustrated with Chris Christie, as he said, again, according to Chris Christie, saying, "Oh my God, can I just relax? And I come in and like in 2 hours, I'm going to transition. Everything will be fine. Like, what are you bothering me with all this shit?" And he's like, that's how he treats it. But now this second presidency is very different. It's not about going by the book. It's really going by the Project 2025 book. Although Chris Christie, again, says, well, that was something written. It got very bad publicity in Trump circle. Well, if everything will be according to that Project 2025 or not, it remains to be seen. I don't think it's the official manual. And I'm like, honey, what? He already fired you. Like, you did not endorse Harris. You didn't put your country over party. And now you still are playing sort of like, both sides. He also said, the mystery to me is that nobody believed Trump. His actions reflect what he exactly promised to do. The more unusual choices are such as Marco Rubio and others who are rather conventional. Then he was asked to comment, how will this cabinet be seen by NATO allies? Because we're literally, in a war and 5 minutes before the next one. And he said, well, Marco Rubio will be fantastic. He'll do a great job. You may not agree with him and blah, blah, blah. I played you the videos where he says, literally, Marco Rubio says that NATO has to figure it out by themselves. So fact check a little bit. But anyway, now, David Marchik said that that's an interesting point. The question was about Gaetz and will he be confirmed? Will he not be confirmed? And what does he know? Because he's still in those circles in DC. And he said that what he knows, that if Gaetz is not confirmed, some or one of those Trump's lawyers will be the head of the DOJ. And since it's a lawyer without a crazy past, this could be somebody who can get easily confirmed, Alina Habba included. Yeah. So according to him, and he cited few sources internally, that Trump has not received classified briefings according to his knowledge. And he said yes, because Trump did not sign the ethics agreement. And I posted this on Twitter. I posted it on Blue Sky, and on Twitter, everybody starts screaming, but what about MSM? NBC says he doesn't. CNN says he's receiving it. ABC says he's receiving it. Fox News says blah, 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 blah. And I said, listen, I report on the news from a source. Neither you nor me are in the, room with Trump. We don't know what he's receiving or not. But I rather take my knowledge from somebody who is citing physical people who are, telling him, right? I'm reporting it on background. I'm not revealing names because it's not my part. It's not my business. But I'm rather trusting somebody who was dealing with Biden administration and who dealt with transitions and transition periods by the book than mainstream media. Also, I want to point you that if you open your articles, the NBC articles, that with the headline that Trump receives classified briefings and information, It literally says at the bottom, Trump transition team representative was not able to confirm that Trump had begun receiving the briefings. Before the election, Trump had said that he did not want to get the intelligence briefings to avoid any chance he would be accused of leaking information. Now, all of that is BS. He is saying that in order not to sign the ethics agreement, because the ethics agreement goes both ways. It sort of like officially kicks off the transition period, meaning the sitting president has to reveal what he is dealing with and whom he's talking to and what about he's talking to the incoming president and vice versa. So in order not to do that, they rather not sign the ethics agreement and, maybe Putin updates him. What do you know? What do we know? Right? But when it comes to mainstream media, one thing is misinformation and hiding information. I know it went viral over the weekend when I was fighting with New York Post, where they just literally fabricated. There was a lineup by alphabetical order at the in Lima, Peru, and President Biden was standing between Vietnam and Taiwan because it's USA. And they say, oh, he was put in, harassed into the corner. He was humiliated, blah, blah, blah. And I said, what an idiotic comment. And they start fighting with me. If you haven't seen it, go to my Twitter or Instagram. I put it up, the slides there. It's pretty hilarious how they started defending their stuff and accusing me of misunderstanding. Anyway, but the point is, think about how the story was Trump receiving classified briefings. Headline says one thing, the whole article says one thing, and at the very bottom it says that all of it that you just read is waste of your time. But people are sharing clickbaity headlines or sharing the first paragraph. How many people are reading to the small print? Not many. Now, CNN also, Dana Bash, that we know what we think about all that, but they decided to cover those neo-Nazi marches that happened through this weekend, especially in Ohio, and see how she refers to those marches. Take a look.
Talk about something that happened over the weekend, not in your district, in Columbus. A group of neo-Nazis paraded through that city wearing, waving swastikas, covering their faces. This is not the first time this sort of thing has happened in Ohio in particular. And of course, it's continuing to spread. We don't know what side of the aisle this comes from.
We don't know what side of the aisle this comes from. Dana? We kind of know. Do you want us to reveal it to you? Do you think that Democrats are, walking up with like neo-Nazi with the torches? Have you ever seen Democrats engaging in such shit show? Who's benefiting from it? Who is MAGA? Who are the people who stormed the Capitol? Who are those boys, right? The Proud Boys. What are you talking about? One thing is whitewashing or saying washing Trump. Another thing is literally becoming his mouthpiece and agent. That's very different, right? That has nothing to do with being clickbaity. That is somebody with an agenda. That's why I'm creating my own app, so we go live and have all the news in my own or our own goddamn home. We come in, we have all the news. I don't want to deal with social media. I don't want to deal with any platform. I'm not monetized. I don't give a crap about this. I want to be in my own house where we are, it's like you were living in this shelter with crazy people, and then you got your own home, and you're like, oh my God, I can close the door and put a knock on it. And I can let people in who are sane and normal. And then we can have a good dinner. Nobody's like raping each other. Looking forward to it. It's coming very soon, on Apple and Google. And, we're going to make it all work. Jack says, we're so thankful to you, Olga, telling us the truth and not some clickbait headline. Thank you, Jack. Appreciate you. Thank you. And, this was, I really, really appreciate your comment. Why? Because I dealt with so much hate. And some of you know it. That yesterday was like insane. I'm putting news and I'm being harassed by Democrats saying, what is your source? Why are you lying? Like, because mainstream media says different. Like, have you not realized they say something different? How many times has she visited Mar-a-Lago? Jay says, the Donovan, probably a lot, who knows? But good point, Jay. The spin. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, Bonnie, I agree. Now, some of you mentioned the cancer research, and this is something that RFK Jr. and now Dr. Oz, we'll talk about Dr. Oz in a second. Anyway, so RFK Jr. Was on TikTok talking to his fans, about stopping funding the research that you guys are referring to. Take a look.
I'm going to go to NIH my first week, and I'm going to call all the division heads, and I'm going to call all the bureau chiefs, and I'm going to say, we're going to give drug development and infectious disease a break, a little bit of a break for about 8 years. And we're going to study chronic disease.
Aren't you a macho man? You know what is a macho man? It's not the bigness, the bigness. I'm talking about like Trump now. It's not the size of your balls or whatever. It's your consistency, right? If you have your focus and you are going that way and you're succeeding no matter what, right? You're the champion. RFK is all for make America healthy again, right? He said that 1 week ago at a podcast. Listen, this is about Trump and his eating habits.
The stuff that he eats is really like bad. It's not, campaign food is always bad, but the food that it goes onto that airplane is like just poison.
Really? And then this weekend, he's eating that poison because that's what it takes you to work for Trump. You got to bend over and you have to do what he tells you to do. Here's, the two Big Macs and large fries and the Coca-Cola, not the diet one, but who cares at this point? And, this is the typical dinner that Trump usually has. It's the Big Mac and the fish, Mac fish or whatever, or fish fillet, in Europe, that was the thing. And also bringing fish fillet or Mac fish, whatever, to the airplane and heating it up. He also heats it up. How does that former Epstein plane smells like? I don't know. It's left for us to imagine. But he didn't stop there. He also started advocating for McDonald's. Take a look.
President Trump was cooking at McDonald's the other day and giving people French fries. And people criticized me and they said, well, he's out there giving fast food. And I said, I don't have anything against fast food. I'm against food that has seed oils. When I was a kid, McDonald's was made with tallow fat. That was good for you. Your body needs that. It makes you healthy. Great. Why aren't we making it with tallow fat again?
Really? And of course, there needs to be a grift, because if there is no grift, then we're living for nothing. So now you have t-shirts on his website, mahanow.org, saying, make frying oil tallow again. Robert F. Kennedy in McDonald's colors. Speaking of grift, do you think you can monetize your own inauguration? Yes, you can. Well, I usually journalist, so I'm not buying tickets, nor I'm applying for lottery or whatever. I'm thinking to cover it. Maybe I welcome, not maybe, I certainly welcome your opinion whether I should go or not. My thing is, the rumor is he might use his Trump might use his inauguration speech after he pledges to defend the Constitution, and this is like the marriage, right? I will be truthful to you and all that, and then you go and cheat. He might use that inauguration speech to announce the deportations and the state of emergency and blah, blah, blah. And my thing is, being in press, I don't know. I don't know if I'm feeling it, but he's monetizing it. The tickets are going for sale for mall standing, $1,495, up to $6,995, so $6,995 for Northwest, Southwest standing. And then he's set to attend a gala sanctioned, meaning he will be there, for $12,500. You can go to this ball. Now it's for sale. Standing in a mall. Interesting. Never heard of it. Let me know if that's something that you have ever heard of. I certainly have never heard of that. Now, who is defending RFK Jr., back to RFK Jr., is Margarita Simonyan. That's the main propaganda mouthpiece of Putin. That's the woman who was standing and laughing when they showed that video with the naked Melania Trump describing her porn career. And that's what I showed you. Now, this is what she tweets. All in Russian, translated, it says, RT is the only place where I can speak openly, Robert F. Kennedy, on RT several years ago. He was giving interviews there. Now he's one step away from becoming the head of the Department of Health in the Trump administration. This is what it means to interfere in elections in advance. And it's true, because I can read Russian. It's good translation. Yeah. Anyway, Trump appointed Sean Duffy for Secretary of Transportation. Where is that? Here it is. Yeah, I'm pleased to announce that former Congressman Sean Duffy from the great state of Wisconsin is nominated to serve as Secretary of Transportation. He's well liked. His main thing is that he's loyal and apparently well liked, probably for his loyalty. Now, this guy is a Fox News host. He's a Fox News host. That's his main thing. Now, Trump also nominated Howard Lutnick, the billionaire CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, for Secretary of Commerce. Do I have this readout here for you? Do I have it? Yes, I'm thrilled to announce that blah, blah, blah will join my administration as the United States blah, blah, blah. And then in his role as co-chair of the Trump-Vance transition team, Howard has created the most sophisticated process and system to assist us in creating the greatest administrative blah, blah. So he's not just getting the position of Secretary of Commerce. He will also lead our tariff and trade agenda, which is well, those tariffs that are supposed to become our state tax, pretty much. Now, this is, if you're not familiar how he looks like, I got you. Here's him at Madison Square Garden at that Nazi rally.
So, the first thing, we must elect Donald J. Trump president because we must crush jihad!
Well, apparently his office was on top of the Freedom Tower or the 9/11 tower, the Twin Tower. And so he really with passion hates jihad, which certainly is a very sad situation. If it's true, I understand it. But, whew, okay. Rosie says, I wouldn't go. His shock and to scare us all will happen right after inauguration. That's what I'm fearing. I'm fearing he's going to use his speech to become that historic sort of like, and now herewith you elected me, we're closing the borders, and I get visualized like everybody going in and like, you know, that's weird. Yeah, you know, Senator Coyne's disappointing yesterday supporting Doge cuts. Yeah, Ruby. Hey, Ruby. Yeah, it is disappointing. Also, Fetterman today said that to Dr. O's thing, oh, he will support Medicare, will vote for him. Well, he'll tell you anything. Have you not learned that you're going to hear whatever you want to hear? You're like this girl on a date who's clueless and says, I like this. Well, he's going to give you this and tell you this until he gets what he wants, and then you laugh there. So, come on now. This is politics. It's the game. Now, Professor Snyder, let's take a quick break from the nominee. Actually, no, let's get through it because, you know, let's rip the Band-Aid. Do I have it? Where do I have it? I don't have it here. Oh, it's in your newsletter. Read it in the newsletter. So anyway, as I was just coming up live, it's official now that Trump appointed Linda McMahon, a former administrator of Small Business Administration. Well, she is actually somebody who's benefiting from WWE. She's the wife of the owner of WWE. She's part of that infamous lawsuit against him for sexual harassment and human trafficking and all that kind of stuff. Her husband, I made a mistake today to read his court cases and what he demands women to do. Defecate he's doing that on their heads, and like, woo! Anyway, this is the head of Department of Education, somebody who is in human trafficking, and there were kids and young boys are involved. Concerning, to say the least. And then he also nominated Dr. Oz to oversee the, Medicare, Medicaid. Dr. Oz, the only part of Dr. Oz is that name. And why I'm laughing, weirdly, I was on Dr. Oz once as a guest. And this was very interesting. This was, well, it's not interesting at all, actually. This was about clean air and how, like, your humidifier, how you have to clean it, how often, all that kind of stuff. It's years ago, 10 years ago. And what is really pathetic is that I had to learn everything by heart that I will say. They would test me to say those exact sentences. They will record me in case I say something different, so they have a pre-recording of me saying what they want me to say. He was very not polite. He was very sort of dismissing. He didn't want to speak to me. He wanted to speak things out, and then they would cut it together as if we spoke, like all that kind of stuff. Which was recorded. It was never live anyway. And then on his show, he would misspeak a lot, and then will be like many, many takes. So that's what I know about Dr. Oz. But certainly conspiracy theories, selling all types of diets and all that kind of pills, him overseeing Medicare, Medicaid. Again, let's not get delusional as to that they can dismantle things. They have to get into Affordable Care Act. How far can they go to destroy that? Again, yes, Trump has the immunity, but then again, also, how far will Democrats fight against it? That's all the questions that are valid, and it remains to be seen how far they can go with their agenda. Now, I wanted to show you a video of Professor Snyder. Professor Snyder is really the voice of reason, and I really like his newsletter, and I really like his Bonnie says means to an end. Repeal Social Security Act, which authorizes CMS, aka Medicare, to dismantle. Yeah, exactly. So that's what pretty much he pledges to do in this announcement by Trump. This is about the what's his face, Dr. Oz. David says, not funny, but is Alex Jones getting a gig in the next administration? Maybe. There's a Treasury thing hanging up. There will be a big event on Thursday celebrating 30 years at the Treasury, and Clinton will be there and sort of honoring Bill Clinton. On Thursday, they invited me to go and cover it, and I'm thinking maybe I should go, cover it and bypass this whole the administration stuff. I'm kind of conscious about the White House because the Trump people have an office, so it's a thing. Now. I know how that works. Bonnie says no Social Security or SSI, no Medicare, SSI, then Medicare, and Dr. Phil. Yeah, Jay, I think Dr. Phil will be the Secretary of Mental Health and Wellness. I don't know. Well, certainly he flipped, so it breaks my heart, the people who will be affected. Indeed. And honestly, I don't know many people who are not affected, because a lot of people have pre-existing conditions, and pre-existing conditions, could be such as like high blood pressure. It doesn't have to go that far, right, to lose your coverage. And it's really, really disturbing. And what I want to encourage you to do is get your medication. Get your, whatever medicine you need to get, your checkups that you've been postponing, your appointments, maybe treatments, maybe procedures, any type of vaccines you were postponing to get them, and let your kids get them. just so you are a bit prepared. And also look at your state insurance. Like in New York, there's also equivalent of Medicare, but on a state level. I know that moving to a blue state is not an option for everybody, but see what your state perhaps can do. So you're not just caught off guard. Any mental health consultation that has been billed through insurance. You guys are talking about, okay. Okay, so moving on, that's the Professor Snyder. So he is the voice of reason, and he talks about the cabinet, and then he talks about what we should be focusing on. This is a longer video, so let me pull it up and show it to you. Meanwhile, type any questions that you might have, or suggestions or comments, and I'm gonna find this video. I think I have it. So this is 5 minutes, 32 seconds. Bear with me. Dr. Snyder is worth it. By the way, he joined the Council for Foreign Affairs. He is advising there, and I'm, in the media, and I'm covering it. So it's such an honor. But also is Yale professor, and he really has the history facts in order. Take a look.
Truly alarmed at what you've been seeing in the last week and a half.
Yes, it's nothing is unclear here. These appointments are not just poor choices in a traditional sense. These appointments, each of them individually, is historically bad, but taken together, these are not people who are going to be bad at their jobs in some sort of normal sense. Taken together, these appointments suggest an attempt to actually make the American government dysfunctional, to make it fall apart, to pervert it, to have it do things that it's not supposed to do until it's not capable of doing anything at all. So, of course, one has to be attending to this.
We can get into a conversation with the 11 nominees about who really is unqualified for their position. People are talking about the fact that some of these people are loyalists. Loyalists are often appointed to things, but usually they have some kind of qualification. I want to play something that the former Democratic Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii said. She's the current nominee for the Director of National Intelligence. This was from February of 2022. Let's just listen to this for a moment.
Presidents Putin, Zelensky, and Biden, it's time to put geopolitics aside and embrace the spirit of aloha, respect, and love for the Ukrainian people by coming to an agreement that Ukraine will be a neutral country, no military alliance with NATO or Russia, and therefore alleviate the legitimate security concerns of both U.S. and NATO countries as well as Russia, because there'd be no Russian or NATO troops on each other's non-Baltic borders. This would allow the Ukrainian people to live in peace. Aloha.
Aloha back to you. Let me show you one thing that Russians have been pushing for. This is Tulsi Gabbard's advertising on Russian television and social media. They portray her as this warrior and the sexy model, and this is who will save United States and all that types of stuff. They're openly, cheering for her to become Director of Intelligence. So just wanted to show you, because we spoke about Aloha, Tulsi Gabbard. Let's continue.
Okay, I know folks from Hawaii say aloha in a lot of instances. That's not actually one of them that would be relevant. That was 33 seconds of Tulsi Gabbard telling you most of what you need to know about Russia, where she stands on this matter, with an adversary that has invaded an ally.
Yeah, going back to your first question, it's not just that these people are not qualified enough. It's not just that they're totally unqualified. It's that they're anti-qualified. They're qualified to do the opposite of the thing that they're supposed to do. Tulsi Gabbard is talking in a moment when Russian forces are approaching the Ukrainian capital, when Russian assassination squads are attempting to kill the Ukrainian head of state. And she's advising people that all we have to do is summon up a magic word and in effect surrender all of Ukraine to Russia. It's an extraordinary thing to be doing, and it's not naive. It sounds naive, but it's not. It's what it's doing is trying to prepare the way for more Ukrainian suffering. It's what it is saying, he who invades is right.
And that's the point I want to get to. It's not naive. And you pointed out in a post today that, in fact, the conversations between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, we now know, have been going on. Elon Musk has been involved in those conversations. And putting aside the fact that Elon Musk is a man who, in 3 different businesses, makes money from the U.S. government and other governments, now is going to have a seat at the table, kind of oligarchy, if you've ever heard of such a thing. This is part of a plan, something that they've been working toward, this idea. Tulsi Gabbard, as you said, as far as she's known as being a sort of a fan of Vladimir Putin and someone who carries his water.
You tick down the list of all of these posts, and it's the same story. Gates at Justice is someone who could only pervert the rule of law, right? Hegseth in Department of Defense, it's the same thing. He's someone, I didn't mention this in the post, but in his book, he's essentially thinking about how American soldiers should be used against the enemies within, which is Trump's idea. You bring all these things together, and basically what you have is something quite coherent, which is the notion that the American government should be falling apart. American society should be in chaos, and that would be a very good thing. And of course, it's only a good thing if you're an enemy of the United States from abroad, or if you're an oligarch who thinks that somehow you're going to profit individually as everything else falls to pieces.
What do you tell people? Because I'm sure in the last week and a half, everybody's been emailing you and texting you and asking these questions. What do we do now? We know some bad things have happened. We know things will get bad, more bad perhaps. What do we do?
Yeah, you got to maintain your own sense of what is good. You have to maintain your own vocabulary. You can't normalize the other things that people are doing. If it's grotesque, you have to call it out as grotesque. And we have to, I'm afraid, like if we're citizens, we have to get past the post-electoral moment. And we have to think in terms of what's coming. We have to stop being angry at one another and perhaps think about some new alliances. And if we're elected officials, we have to slow this down and give Trump early defeats so there's not a sense of momentum. All of that.
You said something interesting, I think a week ago when we talked, and you said you have to remember that you're the same people you were before the election. Your values are the same as they were before the election. The things you prioritize are the same they were before the election. So do the things that you do to make the world around you better.
Yeah, the whole idea of this is to shock you into a different world.
Right.
But you have to take your sense of shock and say, okay, shock doesn't license my adapting myself to the new thing.
Right.
Shock means that something very wrong has happened, and I have to remember what I think is right and start from there.
And so, I really like the notion of they're trying to shock us to be paralyzed and just watch it all happen. I don't want to get too personal, but I have been in situations, and I can call myself a survivor, where a woman, when assaulted, goes into freezing mode, and you just survive, and your only thought is, let's survive this. And this is what we cannot afford right now. We need to keep our head on a swivel, and what he says, knowing that what is right and what is wrong. For that reason, if you, and I will not get tired telling you that if you watch something and it's not provoking you to think, or you don't have any moments like, I never thought of it, and there's people commenting, or, like it's an engaging situation where you feel like you're getting, bombarded with information. It makes you feel smaller and smaller and smaller and more sad with every second of you consuming that content. It means you're not getting informed, you're getting programmed. And so you're not a computer. You can shut down this source of information, right? If it's a person, we have so many people we work with or loved ones who will tell you all this thing, oh my God, Trump, this and that. If you feel you're being programmed, you need a healthy boundary. We're not computers, right? You're not a tree. You can move physically. You don't have to sit down and listen. You don't have to watch that television because you used to watch this program at 8 p.m. or a.m. But now this program turned into a propaganda piece. Now you have your power, right? So use it. Be choosy. Actual news versus blah, 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 blah. A lot of stuff. And how to know what's right, what's not. How does it make you feel? Do you feel wiser? Do you feel more, if not excited? Nobody's excited, honey, I know. But do you feel hopeful? Do you feel wise? Do you feel content? Do you feel peaceful, at peace? Do you feel like, okay, you're angry, but you have an idea what to do? Or are you shocked? You're shocked into indifference. Are you being shocked into inaction? Don't allow yourself to become that vegetable. Perhaps time will come. It's not something that we will escape. At some point, we will be that goddamn vegetable, and we can hope there's a loved one caring for us, but not now. You are having a decision power, right? You have the decisive power. So take your decisions and make them wisely. Now, Trump's advisor on economy called on the UK. There's a long article. It's in your, I think yesterday's, it was yesterday's newsletter. Again, free, sign up, honest.substack.com, long readout. And so they said that Washington will be less interested in a free trade deal if Britain moves into closer alignment with Brussels, according to one of the president-elect's key advisors. And so Britain, as much as EU, as much as any other country, is considering counter tariffs, right? Because the last thing they're going to do is bending over and suffer, right? I was in a meeting with representatives from Canada and from Mexico. Both of them, this is trade, like secretaries of trade or equivalent of it, whatever the title is there. But all of them discussed that if tariffs were to become reality, they will impose tariffs. And so what it will result is a trade war, right? And so UK said, listen, Trump has promised blanket tariffs of up to 20% on goods imported to the U.S., a move likely to trigger a global trade war and do significant economic damage to the U.K. Imports from China face tariffs up to 60%. The tariffs would have GDP growth in the U.K. So the tariffs, if imposed, would divide by half, so reduce 50% of UK's GDP. That's how much it matters, right? Amounting to 21.5 billion pounds whole in the tax and spending plans, and push up inflation by 3 to 4 percentage points. For that reason, UK is going to fight. And so what it will ultimately, there will be a war, and then it will be isolated, right? And the same thing, why those headlines now? Mass deportations will lead us to increased prices. Why? Because immigrants or migrants who are undocumented are accepting the jobs that Americans mostly will not. Certainly not for that price per hour. And so whatever we used to, because this folk, are honestly working and putting the honest work hours into getting that paycheck and paying for their families, and they're okay with it, Americans will not. And so start paying for people, to pick those berries and salads and all that kind of stuff. $15 an hour minimum wage, and then we'll see what the pricing will be. And certainly also, what does the economy do if you lose 20 million people? And then you fire federal employees. So, we'll see. But again, according to Professor Snyder, let's just one step at a time, one day at a time, one step at a time. Now, Taiwan's representative at an Asia-Pacific summit met with Joe Biden and on Friday, and invited him to visit Taiwan in the near future, with two men having a lively exchange of views, the island's delegation to the summit said. Now, in tonight's newsletter, which is already there, I in detail explained the plans. There've been a study by Pentagon and some hired help, so to speak, to lay out the possibilities of a war with China over Taiwan, possibility of that turning into a nuclear war, and what could be done to prevent it, what could be possible ways to deal with that, what could be an outcome. They are literally laying out how close we are in proximity. Let's say one thing is mainland US, but also we have military base in Guam, which is way closer. So what can be used? How are we dealing with that? How did Biden's administration position ourselves now? So you can read it there. It's in detail. So check it out. It's, in my opinion, it's very interesting. And also, Biden administration has changed our approach to nuclear conflicts and provocation. And so there's also different rules are imposed. And so I also depict that in Monday's newsletter and also tonight. So now North Korea recently launched drones into South Korean airspace as part of a test. It flew over the South Korean leader's home and his office, and it activated their air defense systems. And North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un has reportedly ordered the mass production of these drones, and so they were testing them. Truth be told, South Korea also flies drones over North Korea, and that's how we get those pictures from North Korea. So it's tit for tat, but certainly worth keeping an eye on. Now, today marks 1,000 days of Ukrainian war. It's not Ukrainian war, it's Russian war. It's the invasion of Ukraine. Let's put it right. I let you vote if you want to see this. It's a 3-minute compilation of pictures, just dedicated to this day and 1,000 days of war in Ukraine. It's 2 minutes, 56 seconds. It's not graphic, but if you're in a certain mood and you don't want to see anything sad, join me in 3 minutes or mute me, don't watch it, and I'll be back and I'll scream really loud and say, now. And then you can come back and we talk more about politics. But since majority voted to see it, let's take a look. Kudos to United 24. Very good job. Now, let's see how badass the Ukrainian women are. This is a woman who joined the military with not much experience fighting, and she alone took down a Russian missile. Take a look.
Попала? Є. Попала, Наташа, попала. Попала. Попала.
They say, you got him, you got him. It's amazing. You know, I remember the first days of the invasion, how people went up on their balconies and they used like jars was like pickled stuff, because we like this pickled, you know, cucumbers and pickles, you know, and tomatoes and whatever. And so they used the jars to like throw it to drones, at the Russian drones and missiles, and take them down that way. So, you know, the resilience is there. Now, unfortunately, through this weekend, as much as everybody started having conversations, Scholz, the German Chancellor Scholz, called Putin, told him that, you know, Putin has to put an end to it by withdrawing the forces and respecting Ukrainian sovereignty. Later, he spoke out in favor of his decision, and he said, look, this is what I wanted to do. This is what I did. He also reportedly said, again, all the quotes and everything is in your newsletter, but I want to save time without reading out. But he said, listen, but I haven't heard anything new, and this is bad news. So Putin is not interested to sit down and negotiate. So as much as Trump wants to portray this as he can solve it by freezing the conflict, as much as Turkey's Erdogan said that pretty much the same, they need to create a buffer zone in Ukraine, which will stretch over 800 kilometers, you know, let Russia keep what they now conquered, and let Ukraine demilitarize, while Russia is freezing the conflict but gets support from North Korea, Iran, and China, with hopes that they will not invade everything else. The only difference between Trump's plan and Erdogan's plan, Trump demands Ukraine not to join NATO for 20 years, at least 20 years, and Erdogan at least 10 years, graciously. But what I want us to realize that, first of all, if you freeze the conflict, no conflict, no aid. This is the fine print in our PDA, Presidential Drawdown Authority, that gives aid to Ukraine. No conflict, no money, honey. Also, the buffer zone is 800 kilometers, which will include, and this is the news that people are not realizing, it will include the city of Kharkiv, where I'm from, and it's the second biggest city. It's the first capital of Ukraine, as much as Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. It will be included in that demilitarized buffer zone, meaning Zelensky will not have a single gun protecting him. How nice is that? Meanwhile, Russia is with Iran and North Korea and everything. Russians have announced that if the war, or when the war is over with Ukraine, North Korean forces will not be leaving Russia. Now, guess why? And they're speaking about 100,000 people joining North Koreans, right? And also, Putin is set to sign the same military collaboration agreement that he signed with North Korea that led to those troops marching into Ukraine and getting knocked out. He's signing the same thing with Iran before the year ends. Their leader is traveling, Pashinyan, or whatever his name is, traveling to Moscow to do that. So there's three countries, again, one little Ukraine, and Ukraine has to bend over. But in order to freeze the conflict, you have to have Russia sitting down and negotiating. Putin doesn't want to negotiate. Through this weekend, it was one of the heaviest attacks. Tens of people killed, many people suffered a lot of injuries. I don't want to show you that video, because this video what we saw now is nothing compared to what I can show you, and I won't. But 120 missiles and 90 drones in one night. One night. Does it show you that there's some negotiation? No. And so Zelensky gave an interview, to Ukrainian radio. I want you to read the subtitles. Subtitles are in English. Take a look what he said. It's 1 minute, 15 seconds. Okay? Get ready to read.
Перше, сильна Україна. Вона повинна бути сильною для будь-якої дипломатії. Хочу ще раз це підкреслити.
Але США не лише потенційний посередник в переговорах. Це країна, яка надає величезні обсяги допомоги Україні і яка може спонукати нас до того, щоб ми сіли за стіл переговорів. Який меседж ви отримали від Дональда Трампа під час тих контактів, які у вас з ним були? Тобто він, як він каже? Він каже, я стану президентом і сідайте за стіл переговорів. Як це виглядає?
Я думаю, що він так не каже. Ми незалежна Україна, і ми, мені здається, в час цієї війни наш народ, і я особисто в перемовинах зі Сполученими Штатами Америки і з Трампом, і з Байденом, і з іншими європейськими лідерами довели, що ми, що з нами риторика «сідай і слухай» не працюючи. І це не через те, що ми такі, а через те, що так ми повинні відноситись в принципі до будь-якої країни, будь-якого народу, будь-якого лідера. Поважати. Це, в принципі, рівність, одна з цих цінностей, за які ми боремося сьогодні.
And so, Zelensky stated that he will not negotiate with Trump until he is president because, quote, this matter requires presidential authority. As much as I was pooping on Zelensky for meeting Trump and standing like this beaten up dog, I like that sentence. It's not lie, it's not offensive, it's a fact. It's a fact. You need to be president to negotiate with other countries, especially those that are at war for the third year in a row. That is the 1,000th day of conflict today. You need to be president to negotiate with other presidents. God damn it, yes. Now, can Democrats say that to Trump and MAGA? Please, please. You know, if Trump wants to, you know, send away the Senate, right, to appoint those nominees, why can't Biden do the same thing and goddamn appoint those 47 judges, the federal judges, right? We can play this game too. Same immunity. We're not willing to because we're above that. But when, yeah, you know, it could be a boxing match, but somebody just kicked you in the balls real bad and real proper. Are you going to still fight on this level or are you going to kick them in the balls? Maybe. Because they're about to knock out your entire family. That's where we at. This is my genuine question. Are we willing to play this game or are we willing to pretend that we're better? Hey, Brandon, Trump doesn't respect anything except power and feeding his ego. Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Now, State TV in Russia on Trump is asking, what is Trump willing to offer us? This is subtitles again from, now this was Ukrainian, now from Russian into English. Please read the subtitles. This is state television.
Его главная задача – разорвать вот эту вот связку между Китаем и Россией. Вот здесь я не знаю, как он это будет делать. Вот я в том-то и дело, что это очень интересно. А как он это собирается делать?
Я могу тебе предложить теоретический вариант. Когда Трамп говорит, Владимир, до Лиссабона все забирай. А мы так говорим, а Британия? Ну и Британия тоже. То есть так, что ли?
Да нет, я думаю, границу надо проводить, значит, Аризона, Небраска.
Или так, да-да, и скажет, слушай, да-да. И, кстати, еще вот Аляска.
А там Северный Орегон, да?
Да-да, нет, Аляска, это же ваше? Ну и кусочек
Аляска,
Калифорнии.
это понятно. Есть штат, который граничит вот с Орегоном, там и Нижней Калифорнией.
Да, ну, потому что если говорить серьезно, а что может нам предложить Америка?
А я не знаю, что вот он может предложить.
Why do they mapping United States, Nebraska and Alaska and Arizona? And how the hell is Nebraska close to Arizona? Anyway, they also on state television are portraying now Biden as a special guest at several TV shows, talk shows. It's obviously a Russian guy speaking with American accent. Just see the visual.
Дамы и господа, ну наконец-то у Джо Байдена появилась возможность со мной и с вами пообщаться. Помогите господину Байдену подойти к сцене поближе.
Благодарю. Добрый день, добрый день.
And I agree, gloves off, because there is so much at stake. David says, exactly. Show by their actions that they're willing to go to the mat with MAGA. Exactly. Exactly. Bonnie says, take the gloves off. Too much at stake right now. Oh, that's cool, Brandon. We're happy to see you here. Yeah. Lord. Yeah, Jay. What the fuck? Exactly. Now, this is what former President Clinton says about the Democrats. Take a look.
That in general, the Democrats for a long time sometimes follow the headlines too closely.
Meaning?
Well, they don't want to do anything that's offensive. We have all these consultants who say, here are 5 issues. And you're actually winning all of them, but the 5th one, it's a 50-50 thing, and there's a lot of intensive feeling against it. So talk about the first 4 issues.
And try not to offend anybody.
Yeah.
So in his opinion, this is a long talk. He's also recording sort of like a documentary style interview. He wrote a book called Citizen. It's launching soon, so that's dedicated to that launch. But that was in reference to the campaign and what he sees could have been done better. I see folks in the administration discussing who's going to be the 2028 nominee and pick and blah, blah, blah. Let's get to the primaries. Let's get to, one step at a time, keep the faith and fight. When they say fight, 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 maybe this is a wake-up call to indeed fight, fight, fight. Now, Japan, or Japanese Prime Minister, traveled to Ukraine to show his support. It was a sudden visit. He literally just met with Biden and, at the G20, but then he traveled to Ukraine, to Kiev. He visited the Bucha, as you remember, in the beginning of the war. This is, it's not a village, but it's very fancy. It's sort of a rich neighborhood outside Kiev region, where people were slaughtered and literally killed in just mass grave after mass grave. And certainly he visited those graves and he prayed for all the victims. And here's a video of him arriving in Ukraine and, pledging his alliance, which is really a good thing. And certainly to your comments. Hi, Maurice. Hello. Voters had a clear choice. The time to stand up was the election. We all know Biden isn't going to destroy democracy to save it. And nobody talks about destroying the democracy. He has the same authority that Trump did all of this to get. And we don't even talk about the immunity, right? If Trump is possible, if Trump's idea is to send the Senate away to get his nominees and approve them, the same can do Biden now, send the Senate away and nominate 47 judges. It has nothing to do with destroying democracy to protect it, but rather protecting it by acting. Just acting like nothing happens doesn't really serve justice here. I understand that people voted. I understand nobody's saying that we should be prohibiting Trump to enter Oval Office or to, pledge his alliance and just in allegiance and just start ruling. Nobody's doing that. The point is, what type of fundamental basis are we setting? That's the question here. Nobody's fighting the results. David says, we will make it to midterms. The question begs to be asked what the mental state of the country will be like by then. Deprogramming the public in 2 years is a massive undertaking. Indeed. And Brandon says, fair point. Hey, Yash, hello. Can Trump block the F-16s to be used by Ukraine? Yeah. Worse than that. It's a good question. Thank you, Yash. Worse than that. U.S. Can also block Ukraine from using anything that has particles or parts that are American. So for that reason, for instance, I think Sweden wants to send other type of planes, and they can't because they use parts, American parts, and there's a ban on the usage of those parts. And so, yes, that could certainly be the result. But also, if you freeze the conflict, again, no conflict, no aid. And if you demilitarize everything, that means there is no weapons. So where do the weapons go? That is a good question. Now, this is the answer of the State Department to the question as to will Biden manage to do something before he leaves office? Take a look.
The American people elected Joe Biden to a 4-year term, not to a term of 3 years and 10 months. And we will use every day of our term to pursue the foreign policy interests that we believe are on behalf, that we believe are in the interests of the American people.
So next, the incoming, well, if confirmed, National Security Advisor Waltz, whom Trump picked, he gave an interview on Fox, and he reacted to reports about Biden lifting the restrictions on using ATACMS, right? Those are long-range missiles, actually mid-range. Ukraine used it on Bryansk region, on a military target. Again, Ukraine's point is not to, bomb or somehow, liquidate Kremlin. No, the point is to prohibit the missile attacks, as such as this weekend, 120 missiles, 90 drones. Like, that is not okay. So for that reason, they want to target military base. So that prohibits them, at least slows them down. And so this is Walz giving an interview on exactly this.
So with 2 months left in office, Joe Biden has done something that's been called on to do since this war started, allow Ukraine to strike Russia with everything that we give them, the ATACMS, which are long-range missiles, hit Russia where they're trying to hit them from. Your reaction to that, and were you briefed ahead of time?
I was not, Brian, and it's another step up the escalation ladder, and nobody knows where this is going. North Korea is unleashing ballistic missiles, artillery, now tens of thousands of soldiers. The administration responds by lifting this restriction. North Korea sends more soldiers. South Korea is now saying it may get engaged. China is buying oil from Iran for pennies of the dollar. Iran is using that to send missiles and drones to Russia that is then hitting Ukrainian critical infrastructure. So this is a development, but it's a tactical one. President Trump is talking grand strategy here. How do we get both sides to the table to end this?
So he's contradicting himself, right? He's depicting the entire support behind Russia, right? That's relying on all those countries, to help them. Meanwhile, he's saying, oh, that's a provocation that Ukraine is defending itself. And then he toots Trump's horn that he's about to freeze the conflict. Give me a break, okay? So now Russia is certainly not happy about that Bryansk attack. And so Lavrov, who is the foreign minister of Russia, who is, by the way, at the G20, because George W. Bush invited Russia to join G20. Very kind of him. Anyway, and he was there, and this is a rumor that President Biden did not take a picture. Several leaders did not. Official reason is security concerns. They were not at the podium taking picture with everybody. Not the official family picture. Official family picture was taken today. They're holding hands. All is good. This was yesterday at the Hunger and Poverty Summit or discussion. And, but Lavrov was there. Macron shook his hand. But rumor is President Biden didn't want to be anywhere near. Again, this is a rumor. That's why I'm telling you as a rumor. And it was presented as a rumor in the press pool. That's why I know it. So Russia doesn't like anything. So Lavrov, who's foreign minister of Russia, said that, and this is really worth a quote. He says, we see the usage of ATACMS on Russian territory as clear sign that the West is entering the war full scale. Next question. Next sentence, he says. But we can't confirm that it was ATACMS and that Ukraine actually reached our land, and that it is Ukraine that was the cause of the fire, and it wasn't an accidental fire at the Russian military spot. Whew. What? Now, Putin approved the updated nuclear doctrine today. Now, without scaring you too much, he's doing it for the third time. Through all this almost 3 years of the war in Ukraine, you went to bed not fearing anything, right? And he was updating those doctrines. Probably we were not together yet for me to update you on that. So this is third time, okay? So take it with a little jiggle. Now, according to the document, the decision to use nuclear weapons will be made by Putin personally. Other points added: aggression against Russia by any country from the military bloc will be considered as aggression of the entire bloc. Russia reserves the right to use nuclear weapons in response to the use of weapons of mass destruction against it or its allies. Russia views nuclear weapons as a deterrent, the use of which is an extreme and compulsory measure. Russia may use nuclear weapons in the event of a critical threat to the sovereignty and territorial integrity of itself and Belarus. Provision of territory and resources for aggression against Russian Federation grounds for nuclear deterrence for such a state. Now, my question is, because Ukraine lost their nukes, right? Was denuclearized 1994 through the Budapest Agreement. And paragraph number 5, let me bore you with this. Paragraph number 5 states the United States, the Russian Federation, and the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland reaffirm, in the case of the Ukraine, their commitment not to use nuclear weapons against any non-nuclear weapon state party to the treaty, which is only Ukraine here, on the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons, except in the case of an attack on themselves, their territories, or dependent territories. So, you can't attack Ukraine unless another nuclear party attacks you. That's why Putin is doing all this amendment situation. You know, for us just to understand. So if Ukraine, let's say, uses ATACMS, shoots inside Russia, he has to present it as if NATO was behind it or US was behind it, because he can only attack nuclear-wise Ukraine, and it could be a targeted nuclear attack. It doesn't mean the world blows over. He can't do that unless he says or portrays it as if it was an attack by a nuclear state on Russia. That's why this situation is happening with him writing all of it, right? What is not a coincidence, there were two situations. I wrote an article on 11th of November saying Russia alleges US-UK plot to destroy undersea internet cables amid speculation of Russian intentions. And so that's what they did. Russian spy ship, first of all, was escorted away from area with critical cables in Irish Sea. They saw it and they like, shush, 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 go. But they did succeed to disturb the cables here. This is Sea Lion 1 between Helsinki and Rostock in Germany. And so, there were interruption in service. They could manage to bypass it. To fix it is between 5 and 15 days. And then also they, the very detailed everything is in your newsletter. So just read it there and I connect the points there for you too. So support cable of the Lohunsalmi, I guess it's a Finnish name, suspension bridge broke in Finland, leaving 2 islands most cut off. Norway's massive oil field was shut down by power outage. 2 nuclear reactors malfunctioned in Finland and were shut down, one on Sunday, the other on Monday. 2 underwater cables were cut between Finland, Germany, and Lithuania and Sweden. So all of this is 2 days. Now, Europe is this close to say officially it was Russia. They openly state that all eyes on Russia. Russia is benefiting it. The Nordic states Sweden, Finland, got the pamphlet. So all of them today in mail, and I confirm it by people who live in Sweden, they got sort of a brochure, like a kit, as to describing what to do in a case of war. And then they describe like this nuclear war, this regular war, this is invasion, this is like a hybrid war, what to do, what are the steps. So they have been instructed beginning this weekend, because they see it as a clear indication that this is what can be coming, and again, I confirmed it with people. And lastly, on Israel, U.S. sanctioned individuals and entities for role in West Bank violence and settlement expansion. So U.S. is imposing sanctions on 3 individuals and 3 entities involved in violence against civilians and the destruction of seizure of property in the West Bank. The Department of State is targeting those different individuals for their roles in supporting settlement expansion, inciting violence, and threatening Palestinians. Meanwhile, the Department of Treasury is sanctioning Amana, a major organization behind illegal settlement development, and its subsidiary, other stuff. So anyway, also what I mentioned today in the newsletter, that U.S. today has sanctioned also senior Hamas leaders, prohibiting them to gather funds. They literally, have transactions using our system. So that's what they will be no longer able to do. So, woo, okay. How do we feel about all of it? Why? No. Certainly we feel like this a little bit. I feel it. I resemble the statue, and I want to be a girl with a little balloon. And that's what I will be working on, to be the girl with the balloon. But to quote Voltaire, those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. True. Now, let's not believe the crazy stuff, okay? One day at a time, one step at a time. Right? Let's see the strategy. The strategy, again, is to shock you in action and ultimately in acceptance. Don't allow for that. I don't mean you have to go and punch walls. No. Calmly realize what is good, what is bad, think about how physically you can prepare, get your treatments, get your, ducks in order, whatever. So just think practically. Hug your loved ones, maybe a bit tighter, and just see it step by step. Because those who start executing their plans so fast, like this incoming folks, they usually stumble and fall very fast. Also, there's 2 major egos at play, Musk and Trump. You don't know how long that will last. So see how much happened in just 1 week. 1 week, so just see it one day at a time. You don't know what's going to happen with all of them in 1 week. Maybe all are fighting and nothing happens. So let's see, right? Prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and just stay at the moment. As monks say, stay where your feet are. Your feet are here, be here. Don't be on January 21st. It will happen. We will be there. Then we will be thinking what's important then. Okay? All right. Let me check some comments. I think that's what's really right. Bonnie says, don't comply in advance. I disagree. How you act when scared matters, and brave isn't always the default. That wouldn't be happening with Kamala Walls. Agree. Be the shield, maiden holding the sword and shield. That's the image in my mind. Yeah. That's what we can aspire to. Yeah. They're not brave. They're just scared. I keep thinking about President of Latvia that you showed us. Many brave folks in that region. Thank you, Jay. Yeah, exactly. Remember, that's what's at the training, the NATO training, where, and thank you for mentioning that, where he said, listen, let's be factual, right? Trump is not president. When he comes in, let's not rely on him. We have to be strong ourselves. So, for that reason, let's do that. When people are sort of in my shoes, I'm thinking, what can I do in the app is my sort of safe haven at this point and my last resort, which I don't want to be the last resort. I think I have to be my first resort. And, just to have a space where you have actual news in visual, audio, and video form. You tap on it, you get your news. If you want to engage with others and see sort of that clickbaity stuff, you know where to go to. And then certainly not leaving social media, but just to have one space where we can be safe, because you see, all of it. Their incompetence will hopefully slow most of their exactly. Yeah. And that's what, referring to Professor Snyder, when he said that Democrats have to slow it down, not to allow the momentum to build up. Right. So Bonnie says, fight disinformation. That's how we got there. Exactly. And there's something as simple as is Trump getting his security briefings or not? And I'm hearing no. And then everybody's like, but CNN says it. And this is Democrats. Like, come on, CNN says a lot of stuff. Ask them for sources, right? Because folks are so fast to ask independent journalists or actual journalists who reply to comments, because not many do, for their sources. Ask them for sources. I don't mean I don't tell you not to trust anybody. Ask for sources. The way you ask those who, don't have that following or don't have this status. That's not just to you guys, but just to imagine. In general, Kamala Harris already did that. Something positive, meaningful to help others. Yeah. Well, we'll do all that. My focus is now more on interviews. I'll share when I know more, but really policy related. And this is the time to be with local politics. Yeah. Pay attention to local city meetings, meet people. Yeah, and I think, David, to your point, engaging with people and really having one-on-one conversations, that will be very helpful. Local politics are important. Exactly, Rosie Marie, and that's how we got where we got. Yeah. All right, guys, I'm done. Thank you so much. Did I wake you up just now? I have this thing. I'm trying it. I promised myself to try it for several weeks. Take it a month or so. 9 a.m. morning news, a.m. actual news, 9 p.m. evening news. So morning news is literally very short, to the point. Today was 40 minutes. I want it to be about 20 minutes. So you're getting ready for work or you're commuting. You get 20 minutes. You're like, okay, that's what I need to know. Done. Right? Especially if you missed your evening news, right? So it's really what you need to know. And then evening is where we're engaging. We're going through the clips and all that kind of stuff. And that's where we spend time together. Okay. That's my plan. Let's see. I'm all for it. I want to see if you guys like it, or most importantly, if you guys need it, if you see it valuable. So we'll see how we progress, and then we decide according to you. Okay, because I do what you guys think is right. I think that's a good idea, Bonnie. Thank you. You're getting ready for the gym getting ready for the gym in the morning. Yes. This morning you were getting for the gym. Yeah, it was like 6 a.m. your time. Ooh, yeah. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Please stay peaceful. Keep your head on a swivel. Consume actual news, and just one step at a time. Okay, let's keep the faith. All right. Now, have a good night. Thank you for being here. If you're not on the list for newsletters, get your goddamn newsletter. Also, for the app, I'm only sending it to our subscribers because we need like-minded people in our app. I can't do this on Twitter or Blue Sky or whatever. So we're just creating equivalent of Blue Sky. No. honest.substack.com. Okay. Very close community, actual news. So you can go to one spot and get it all. Free. It's not, nothing will be paid. Thanks for chatter. Yeah, exactly, guys. Thank you for chatter. And Bonnie says trying. Thank you. And in trying, I think that's the strongest thing you can do and the biggest thing you can do. Yeah. Good night. Be strong and be well. Yes. Okay, guys. Have a good night. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. Like it, share it wherever you are so we can get people or not. I don't know. Okay. We're going to see each other tomorrow, 9 a.m. and then 9 p.m. for the evening news. Okay. Have a good night.